Hello, yet again. Cathar Love number 63. It's a little bit cool here today. Sydney, lovely one day, beautiful the next. But it can get wet and cold. So Cathar Love number 63 and Catharism, what it is and isn't. Part 2. I suppose one of the problems of not scripting a program such as this is that one can diverge over here, and what you diverge to can sometimes be quite interesting, so we stay there instead of spending more time with the actual theme. So once again, what Catharism is and isn't. I mentioned that I'd seen a few YouTube, and I was a little perturbed. I don't get worried and I don't get upset over these things, but I felt somewhat perturbed because people have got this idea of Catharism, which I don't feel is grounded in reality, and I think that, and this has got nothing to do with age. You can be 15, 16, a young person, old, whatever age. You can have a mystical experience. You can have a transcendental experience, and which could be tied in with Cathars. You may read a book about Cathars and you can feel not so much intellectual reactions, but emotional, deep down in the gut, and you can feel, yes, this is what really I'm about, and this book starts to explain this to you. I've had those feelings. I've had those feelings from books. So I can understand that. But Catharism is same as with Gnosticism. It's gaining at some point on your, say, Cathar journey, that you need to gain a connection with your guide. Now, it hopefully gets to the point where you can converse with your guide, as I used to some 10, 11 years ago. Just as I'm talking now, and it was just a normal human being to human being. The fact that one was dead and one is alive is beside the point. And it was an internal as well as an external voice, so you can't mistake it. It's not schizophrenic. When you're talking about love, that's hardly schizophrenia. And so I'm not saying you need to have that oral connection, but you need to have some form of connection whereby, whether it's with a pendulum, with the I Ching, or some system whereby you can interact with your guide. I mean, they'll often do things that are unexpected and let you know that your guide is there, but you need to have this communication. So I feel anybody that really wants to be an authority on Catharism, and I don't claim to be authority, I've just had Cathar experiences, and I'm just telling you what I know to the best of my knowledge. I'm still looking for an expert. But I don't call an historian an expert. I'm looking for people who have interacted and lived and had their connection with their guide from a Cathar point of view. And people need to be at that point and discuss their experiences. But we all have to start somewhere, and for most people it's usually from a book. Certainly mine, I mentioned before, was I still have the book. It was called the Cathars and Reincarnation. Although before that I had this phrase ringing in my head, the Albigensian Crusade, and I thought, well, where did that come from? I didn't know. I used to ask various people who were erudite, and my so-called intelligentsia, and they, yes, they knew a little bit about it, but they didn't know that much about it. And then I came across in the library at Chatswood the Cathars and reincarnation, and I took that, and the very first thing I have, I don't know which one it was, but on the, may I just look down for a second? These are the books: A Foot in Both Worlds and the Cathars and Reincarnation. And I can't seem to find it, but in it was, in the preface, never mind, there was a photograph, an aerial photograph of the citadel on top of Montsegur, and I'd never heard of Montsegur, but the moment I saw that photo, I went, I know that place, I've been there, I know that, and it was just an overwhelming feeling, and I, oh wow, so from that point onwards, I got into the book to discover how come that I knew that place, because it was called a deja vu, if you like, but I knew it, so that made me go into the book, and from there I learned about the Albigensian Crusade, which is the crusade, the only crusade of Christian against Christian, because the Cathars were Christian at that time. It was a Cathar religion, and on European soil. So that's where I started from. So I wanted to learn more about the Cathars, and then the next book that came to that I was directed to, or I arrived at, was The Massacre at Montsegur by Zoe Oldenburg. And that is very, very comprehensive. And I wouldn't dissuade you from, there's quite a few books on Cathars, and the ones that you find are probably the ones that they're directing, your guides, directing you to. So I would not say, please don't buy that book. But certainly the Massacre at Montsegur by Zoe Oldenburg is extremely comprehensive to understand where the Cathars come from, the Paulicans, the Bogomils, and the Balkan Peninsula in that area. You can't do much better. And also from the philosophy is the Medieval Manichae by Stephen Runciman. Although I disagree with his final summation, where he said, I'll do it from memory rather than waste time looking at the book, but he said that Catharism was a noble religion, but the fact that they weren't mad about procreating the human race, because Catharism is about you and me and how we are dealing with our souls, our divine spark, and that's what it primarily is. And he said it was a nihilistic relief or belief system that was doomed to failure. But in actual fact, Catharism, which says that everybody ultimately is going to return to the source. It might take many, and knowing a few people that I know, many reincarnations for them to get out of the materialism or the religion and the things, and the drug addiction and things that they've got. It's going to possibly take them some time. I'm going to need a few extra as well. So maybe many extra. But the thing is, it's a happy ending for everybody. Ultimately, we all return to the source. Now, on the last session that I had, I mentioned Henri de Navarre, and he comes into the books that I put out somewhere here. The Cathar Dialogues and a Cathar Codex, a Cathar Gnostic Codex. But I do recommend this is the one that you read first, the Cathar dialogues if you get it. They're both on Kindle, so there's no major expense if you don't. If some people want the hardcover or the actual book, the physical book. If it's just the knowledge, well, there's Kindle for you. By the way, which some people don't realise, if you do buy a physical book on Amazon, and that book is on Kindle, the Kindle book is free, or 55 cents or free. In my case, it's free. So, in with Dr. Gurdam, who's in the Catharism reincarnation and A Foot in Both Worlds, he talked about a group reincarnation in the south of England. And one of the people there also had the same guide that I had, Raider de Montserrat. And that's where I first came across the name of my guide, although I didn't realise at the time that was also my guide. And I must say, there's two Cathars, or three, that died on at Montserrat, who are very, very interested and are, how shall we say, they're the ones working behind the scenes to reintroduce Catharism into this world, because as it was predicted by Belabast, who was the last Cathar perfecti to be burnt, and he said, after 700 years, the laurel, Catharism, will again grow green. And this is the 700-year period. Why 700 years? Because this is the period of internet. This is where it's hard for a good idea to die, or a good ideal, or a good belief. And now we can spread the Cathar belief far and wide for those who happen to be interested, because we're not out to convert anybody. We're not out to convert the world. It's for the few, not the multitude. But it is a chance. But for people to find out about it, and it's very hard to move if you don't know about something. So I'm an ex-Chinese herbalist, and if someone's got a particular problem, I think I can help. I just say, look, there's Chinese medicine. And they go, oh yeah, I'm interested. Well, I tell them more about it. They go, oh no, whatever, I'm not interested in that stuff. Well, then I don't say any more about it. But at least I've said it to them, and they make the choice. So these are books that I certainly recommend. Dr. Arthur Gurdam, he talks about the Cathars and his journey towards it, and how he was an ex-Cathar and what actually happened when he was a Cathar. So it was a period of self-discovery, and this happened after he retired. He was a psychiatrist. Mine started seriously about 25 years ago, 30 years ago. So, but this can happen at any age, that when one gets interested in Catharism. Another book that not many people are aware of, and I certainly recommend it, is called A History of the Albigensian Crusade by Peter of Lavaux de Cernay. And he was a monk, and he actually went on the crusade. He was physically there. So this is the book that I have it, and it's by W.A. Sibley and M.D. Sibley, S-I-B-L-Y. But he was on the was on the crusade. He went with the crusade. He left before the book finishes before the massacre at Montserrat. But he tells it as it was from the Catholic point of view, the enemy's point of view. So obviously he talks about miracles and various things that happened, but he tells it from a Catholic viewpoint, and obviously he wrote it for Catholics, so it gives you a very, very good insight into the mindset and beliefs of Catholicism at the time of the Albigensian Crusades. So finally, there's the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching, this is the one that I tend to use a lot. It's the Richard Willem edition, and I use his for the I Ching. I use his his translation for the I Ching. My guide said to me that to have a good insight into some of the belief systems, because Catharism is tied up very, very much with nature. And I've said once they're probably the first environmentalists, because Catharism is unconditional love for everybody and everything everywhere. Now that means rocks, it means trees, it means flowers, it means not just people. So you respect the environment, you respect the animals that are in that environment, you respect the trees, the flowers, and they loved nature, and this often comes out in the writings about the Cathars. But this Tao Te Ching, basically, Lao Tzu, he was around the same time as Socrates in the West, and they both came to the conclusion that there was a source, there was an origin of everything. And in the Lao Tzu says, from one there became two, from two there became from three, and from three everything happened. So you can call it the Big Bang if you like, but there must have been a source. So this is also the basis of Taoism. And if it's a philosophy, of course, Taoism is being turned into religion in China. But the basic philosophy holds good. And Tao, he said, because it's unknown, this source, this creator, I'll call it Tao. Tao meaning the way, the path. And it's a journey, it's a path. And Breda said to me that in reading that book, the Tao Te Ching, where it says Tao, if I actually put there the creator or source or one or light or divine, whatever you want, the source is unknown, so your name is as good as my name. But I tend to say source to get some unity, but it could be called the monad, it could be called the one, it could be called the light, it could be called the divinity. What's in a word? A rose by any other name is still a rose, smells just as sweet. And Breda said, if you change the name Tao, you've virtually got a very good explanation and a philosophical way of how Cathars looked at things. Now, people may disagree with that. That's fine. I'm just telling you what I was told by my guide. I think that's it. There's another two books, which is the I've mentioned before, by Wayne Newton, and that was the Journey of Souls, and that really that tells about. I've misplaced them. I don't know where they are. I don't think I've lent them out. Some books I don't lend out. I learnt my lesson there. I need them for reference. And they just talk about people being hypnotized and what happens after they die. You meet your guide, you go through a tunnel, you're met by your guide, and he eventually takes you to your actual home. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're atheist, Catholic, Jew, whatever, sick, well, everybody goes through the same process when they die, with minor variations. But so the journey is the same, but everybody's experiences on that journey can be different. Obviously you can have a different guide. If they're a young soul, they could be met by their family and so forth. Old souls, they meet their guide and away they go to their family, which is in the world of spirit, which may or may not be the spirit family. Why I'm mentioning these, I'm not out to promote them, I just feel that this particular books, and there are other wonderful books that have been put out, and there's more and more books put out on the history of Catharism. But I mention these books in order to get an overarching feeling for Catharism, its beginnings, what actually happened, the historical side of it, but also an insight into the mystical side and what Cathars really tend to believe and where they're heading to and where they're evolving. Henri said, Catharism is re-emerging, but he said what will happen is that it will be a Catharism for a different age. He said Catharism is too remote a philosophy. It's only for the few, it's not for the multitude to be made into a religion. So, and I totally agree. So when people want to be a bishop or a pope or a reverend or a mullah of Catharism, you're fooling yourself. Catharism is about the individual, not about the herd, not about the followers, not about the people wanting you to believe or trying to control your lives. If anyone's going to control your life, you control your life. If anyone's going to have a connection with the divine, you don't need a priest, you don't need a rabbi, you don't need a minister. You organize your own connection. You have if there's a problem and there's something happening, you sort it out yourself. You're responsible for your heart, your mind, your body and your soul. You're not well, if it's junk food and the way you eat, that's your responsibility. So, the other thing that I mentioned on the previous one is that Henri said that, on my previous video, that the journey is as important as the destination. A slight explanation on that. Gnostics, Cathars, Catharism, when you are created, you are given the gift of immortality for eternity. Now that's a fairly lengthy journey. And in fact, if you examine it, it's a journey that will never end. So from a Cathar point of view, if you're on the Cathar path and you stay on the Cathar path, you're on a journey that will never end. But there are pit stops along the way. When you sojourn in the world of spirit, and at a certain point you may never need to return to some planet or earth, whatever it is. You've got to that certain level and you will then be in the world of spirit, and there's a lot going on there, and there's so much that is not revealed to us, and we need to be there and get to Catharism. It comes in I think a bit like the world of spirit. As you learn something, they will then take you on to the next level. As you become comfortable and you understand that, you gain that understanding, they'll take you onto another level, deeper level or more mystical level or whatever it happens to be. But you can't go from here to here. It's a journey, and each journey is taking you from level to level. As I said before, your journey is not my journey, and my journey is not their journey. So, and that's why we've got to be a little bit careful when out to convert anybody or bring us into the fold. You do a good job with yourself, and the rest will automatically follow. So the reason I brought these books in is I just feel if people are interested, and well, these are books that will certainly give you a really good grounding in the history, some of the mystic philosophy of Cathars, what they're all about, quite apart from what I'm saying, and from that you can move onwards. Now, there's wonderful books, and I hope that you may, because you've got Amazon now, it's not difficult to put out a book. It's everyone's there to help you. It's a wonderful time for anybody who wishes to express themselves. People who, the normal publishing companies you wouldn't even get through the front door, and yet you can produce your own book. You may do it on Kindle first. It's there. It's not difficult. Again, like everything else, the cooked chicken is not going to fly into your mouth. You know, you have to do something yourself. I just finished with a quick story. My Greek friend told me about it. The Greeks there's a problem. They always say, St. Anthony, help me. St. Anthony, help me. And so this fisherman, his boat had capsized, he's in the ocean, and he started calling out, St. Anthony, help me, St. Anthony, help me, St. Anthony, help me. And this voice came down, and it was St. Anthony. He said, yes. He said, I will help you, but would you mind moving your arms a little? So, in every situation that I've found so far, if you want to write a book or whatever it is you want to do, you want to learn to dance, initially it's not easy. But if you do it, you do put that bit of effort into it, that little bit of energy into it, you do get 1,000-fold return for your effort. All the best on your journey. Bye for now.